Okay, everybody, it is me, Gregory Mannarino. It is Tuesday, April 26, 2022. I missed you yesterday for my post-market report. Most of you already knew that I was not going to do one. Unfortunately, I had to attend a funeral. All right, people, look, so let's talk about the here and now. Stock trading doesn't start for about 40 minutes, and stock futures are lower. Not much, but lower nonetheless. How about yesterday? An over 700 point swing in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. We were down across the board hard. Stocks reversed and actually finished positive across the board. Maybe that will happen today. However, there is a fly in the ointment. What am I talking about? The 10-year yield dropped substantially yesterday. That's, a safety trade. We'll see how this plays out today. Crude oil is getting bid higher yet again, over $100 a barrel. And you know the story behind that. The dollar is slightly stronger this morning. You got cryptocurrencies getting bid up. Bitcoin back over 40,000. Gold is catching a bid. Silver is relatively flat. So that's the story this morning, but we got some really interesting economic news. Well, you know what? Before we go there, how many of you, I can only imagine, are going to be surprised at what you're about to hear. We all know that we are in this new paradigm, okay? This crisis to crisis economy. And we also know that they're going to use these as mechanisms to continue to pull cash out of the future. So not only are we funding a war around the world, and I think you know what I'm talking about here, and that is going to expand as well. This Ukraine-Russia thing, there's no end in sight. They're going to keep it going. Trust me on this, and you already know that. We already understand we got Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, calling for a $1.3 trillion in funding, for this energy crisis. Now we got Janet Yellen. Now she's calling for an immediate funding for the food crisis. Okay, duh. Like we don't know what's going on here. Look at the games that they play. And you and I, we pick these off in advance because we know what they're going to do. So you can expect that via the Federal Reserve and other central banks, are going to be funding everything. So, you have no say-so either. Your vote don't count. Nothing counts. You will do it, and you have no choice. Okay, so calling for immediate funding for a food crisis. Now, with regard to economic news, it's interesting how the mainstream media is spinning this. U.S. manufacturing picked up. Durable goods orders doing well. Actually, it's not true. Yes, these two things did pick up. However, they missed the mark, and they won't tell you that. They expected this number, and they got this instead. But again, you're going to be propagandized. You're going to be lied to. Imagine Greg Mannarino's shock. You can't possibly imagine how surprised I am. But that's the mechanism here, people. Distractions, lies, propaganda, misdirection. Look here, don't look here. The fact of the matter is, globally, we are in an economic free fall with no end in sight. Obviously. That's why we have to throw, trillions of dollars, in the trillions, obviously, at every single crisis that comes along. And we're not done with the COVID one. There's another $1 trillion, okay? Look this up for yourself. That's already been budgeted that will and must be spent. Trust me on this. And after that, they're going to find some other mechanism on top of the war, energy crisis, food crisis, cost of living crisis, or whatever they're going to want to throw at us to pull more cash out of the future. You see, you know this already, but you see, the general population has no idea that this is a debt-based economic model. And because of that, they must create reasons out of thin air to continually borrow from the future. It can't stop. Once we stop that mechanism, we implode. We go into a Mad Max phase, okay? But you're not allowed to know that. People are not allowed to know that those fiat bills that they work for, they're just IOUs. They don't even own them. They're issued by a central bank. They're owed back to a central bank, plus interest that they create out of thin air. That's why we have a debt slave planet. Okay, not just individuals, but nations as well. And you are well aware of that. People, it's out of control. All right, so look, yesterday, epic with regard to this market. I almost squeezed out a video later in the day. Unfortunately, I ran out of time, couldn't do it. But what a swing, 700 points in the Dow, finished positive. Let's see what happens today. But looking at that 10-year yield coming down like that, again, when you see that, when you see the 10-year yield drop, that means cash is flooding into the debt market. So if we see today, for example, the 10-year yield start to come up, that means cash is now leaving the debt market. It's going to look for a place to go, more than likely into equities. Okay, because we have negative real rates here in the United States. You realize that? Despite the fact that the Fed is raising the federal funds rate, it's out of control. But this is a mechanism, again, to destroy people. It's not helping anyone. We have an environment here like we've never seen. Surging inflation with real wages cratering at their fastest pace ever. Meanwhile, we have a Federal Reserve who is nudging the federal funds rate higher, making it harder for people. Not the rich and the well-off. Oh, they're doing fantastic. But the regular guy and the regular girl, they could not possibly be doing worse here. What's happening? What do we know is happening? People are tapping into whatever savings they may have had just to make ends meet. They continue to borrow and borrow and borrow more, again, just to make ends meet. We still have household debt, consumer debt, personal debt, record high, record high, record high. Do you think that mechanism is going to stop in this environment? Do you think sincerely that inflation is going to stop while the Federal Reserve continues to go out of its way to deliberately inflate? It's unbelievable. You know, that's another thing that you're not going to hear. And this bothers me, seriously. The mainstream media outlets, the propaganda ministry, will not explain to a single person that unless the Federal Reserve raises the benchmark rate higher than the current rate of inflation, even using their own numbers, all they're doing is guaranteeing that inflation is going to continue to rise. Could you imagine if this secret got out via the mainstream propaganda ministries? They can't do it because their job is to propagandize, to lie, to distract, to deflect. People, we are sincerely living in the most twisted environment I think that has ever faced this country, or the world for that matter. This is a global takeover of what? You know what I'm talking about, people. Central banks are the government. You and me, we have no representation. I don't care where you live in the world. You are under the rulership of a central bank. That's the truth. And either you can do one or two things. Let the system roll over you and destroy you. 99% of the people are going to be destroyed because of this. The 1% and 2% is maybe 98%. The 1% and 2% are going to do great. And you know what this is, people. You've expected this for years. How many times has this guy explained a new set of rules are coming, a new paradigm? We are witnessing a demographic shift like we've never seen before, going back to a feudal system, a two-tier society. And I'll tell you something, people, it's very disturbing to me to see this happening. And you know, and again, the propaganda just keeps hitting new heights from the mainstream outlets. Oh yeah, these numbers are doing good, we're going up, but they're not telling you they're missing the mark, nearly consistently missing the mark. Anyway, look, so that's the story here this morning. I think you got it down. And what does this mean for you and I? Are we going to change a damn thing? Are we going to stop betting against the debt, becoming our own central banks? No. Are we going to every month allocate cash that we should be converting into hard assets? Physical silver, my favorite of all time. gold, platinum, palladium. Look, let these freak show institutions, JP Morgan, continue to play their game. Good. We can take advantage of it because, look, global debt is going to double from here. It's going to double from here. And where do you want to be? You want to be in a debt-based unit, or do you want to own things? Number one, own things. Absolutely. You need to have some crypto in your portfolio. You know that. I'm going to go over it again. And in my opinion, you should own companies. You should own stock in large cap companies that are paying a dividend. And until we see the meltdown in the debt market, we're not going to deviate. Markets go up, markets go down. We need to expect this kind of movement, pretty wild swings in the market. But the fact of the matter is, until we see the implosion in the debt market, and we can see this with our own eyes by watching that 10-year yield, people, once it spikes in an uncontrolled fashion, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to take everyone by surprise, but not you and me, because we already expect it. When we see that, we know it's time to get out of the market. But that time ain't now. It is not now. You understand? All right, look. Love you a lot. Please share the video. Please comment here. I love reading the comments. And they will see you at the end of the day. I'm out here.